Pros and cons, bros and cons. The world blames dad when it's really your mom. What's cracking? What day is today? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
It's actually Blackout Tuesday. What do you know?
Or Whiteout Tuesday.
Or no, Whiteout Wednesday.
Whiteout
That's
Wednesday.
tomorrow.
We get Whiteout Wednesday. What's up, everybody?
We're here live,
Live,
amongst
live.
the chaos and craziness of the world. The divide is real.
Broadcasting live from the LA riots.
Manipulated by the mainstream media and the left.
Yeah, brought to you by Communist Hollywood.
Yeah. If you notice, I notice. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's things I don't see, but I don't see the right wing dividing anything. I only see the left being divisive, and take it as you will. But that's just what I see, and the whole point of coming to do this live stream and talk to people is so that we can just talk, have an understanding, and I think that's what's missing. I think there's a lot of manipulation. Well, I notice on the left. I don't see it on the right, and I follow a lot of different pages, but I notice, especially with this like Blackout Tuesday thing, right? Like, as a white man, I notice that when I speak up and I come from a place of love to criticize any other race, right, besides white people, because I've been around different black people for a long time in my life, and I have no hatred. I don't judge people by their skin color or whatever. But when I come with criticism of universal criticisms of family, right, getting married, having kids, and having a family, character and morals and values and those types of things, I get attacked to be like, you don't know what it's like to be black, so be quiet. You're white, you have privilege, and you can't speak on these issues, right? But then Blackout Tuesday rolls along, and if you don't post a black Instagram, just a black one, then your silence is speaking volumes, and that it's saying a lot that you're supporting the racism. So I'm confused because it's like when I speak up and I really, voice my opinion about what I see with all races, and the problem is, and the root is, I'm told to be quiet. But then, if I don't speak up and say stuff that they want to hear, then I'm racist. So it's like I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. And I just personally don't like to play those games. And the mainstream media is so manipulative, and so I can't blame anybody because they're manipulated, and they really believe this type of stuff. And anger, emotional hatred, and those kind of things will skew your logic and make you unable to see clearly, which is why I choose to be objective, and see things, not attached to it, because at the end of the day, it's either right or wrong. It's love or hate. It's angry or loving, and honest and truthful, or there's nothing in between. And when I post those kind of things, people they attack me and tell me, it's like, I saw somebody I know that I've known for a long time post like, the new racism is saying that racism doesn't exist. It's like, only people on the left are trying to pigeon you and claim to know your intentions, say that if you don't say this, then it means that. If you say this, then it means that. Like all kind of things. They're trying to redefine things. And it's really, at the end of the day, just to promote fear in people, to make them feel like, oh, I better say this. I don't want people to think this. So, and it's just mind-blowing to me. Anyways. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? We got Queen Butterfly in the chat. Matt.
What's up, Queen?
Queen says,
Butterfly.
it's okay to be white.
It's okay to be. I got a song, actually, for Jesse's
J.O.G.
White History Month.
Skip McBurney.
It's okay to be white. Actually, it's this key. It's okay to be white. I had to make real white chords.
Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy because we obviously social media is on fire right now, just like the rest of the country, and all these people who claim they love George Floyd and they claim they love justice and what's right are the same people who tell you that you got to shut your mouth, you have nothing to say about black issues, and then they try and shame you that if you're not vocally anti-racist, like out there doing something, that you also are a racist. So which one is it? Do I shut my mouth and mind my business, or do I go out there into the middle of a mob that on the whole beats up people who look like me?
And I personally have never met anybody in my life that was like for racism. And I just personally choose to go to the root of it, which is evil and hatred and anger, because you know underneath racism are those things. And so when we call it racism and that's racist, then we're just playing along the game with the divide to make people be like, well, that's a white person saying this, and so it's racist. When it should just be universal, and if, you know, we all want equality. Most of us, I'm sure there's people out there that just like these Antifa people, they just want to destroy, and it's obvious. But at the end of the day, the root of it is just right or wrong, good or evil, love or hate, and that's what people need to focus on, not the whole racism thing, because then it just becomes about skin color and ethnicity, and it just
You end up taking the side of somebody just simply because you share the same skin color. And that's like, if you don't understand Jesse Lee Peterson and people like him, it's you're going off emotions. And if someone tells you that, oh, for example, I say racism is not real, they lose it and they start just getting angry at you. And before they can sit there and just ask the question, what do you mean by that? Well, what he means and what we've learned and what you learn for yourself when you think about it is that it's not real. What really matters when you boil everything down to the root, because what matters is the root. If you want to focus on the fruit, it does no good. You're going to get bad fruit as long as you have a bad root. But fix the root of the problem, and you don't have to worry about the fruit. You don't have to worry about the downstream. And that's what Jesse says. Focus on good and evil. Did the cop do good or evil? Did George Floyd do good or evil? Did they both do good or evil?
Right.
And does that justify all the evil that all these kids are doing now?
And in that instance, the only victims there are George Floyd and possibly even the officer for whatever it is, however it came about. Those are the people involved in that. And so I don't understand why people identify with them. Like, they act like it happened to them. And so, like here, for an example, right? And you could call in and talk about it and help me understand too if I'm not seeing it. I keep seeing a hair pop. Is that like I'm seeing a lot of things about like support black-owned businesses right now, right? Like multiple posts about that. And to me it's like, why wouldn't you just support the businesses that offer the products that benefited you that you liked? Like, why does it have to be about black-owned, white-owned? Why is it a racial issue? And why can't it just be create good products, create good business, and be, you know, received by everybody who can benefit from it? Why does it have to be like supporting a business strictly based off the color of their skin? Like, that's another divisive thing to me. And it just blows my mind. I'm not mad, I'm not angry, I'm just baffled by the logic behind it. You know, like, why not just create the best business you can that can benefit everybody who would want to do business with? That's what business is. That's what America is. You have the freedom to choose. And if you want to support black-owned businesses just because they're black, that's fine. You can do that. That's your freedom. But I think that, you know, we should all strive to be great no matter what our skin color is or anything. You know?
What's up, Just Happy? Our Australian sister from India.
What's cracking? Oh, she called, right?
Australia, yep. That's one of the best calls we've had.
One of the best calls on this side I have.
But it's amazing, like, the more vocal I am on social media, and it's kind of like how Jesse's approach is. People always give Jesse hell saying, why don't you say anything good about black people? And he does. He talks, there's Joel, there's examples within the community, but again, the major concern here, the primary goal for the black community, and right now it's pretty much spreading to all communities of color, and now it's affecting white community, is hate. And if you don't deal with that main problem, what good does it do to just talk about the few good examples? That root problem will destroy the community, and it already is. Just look at the numbers of crime for the population portion they comprise. They're, you know, black men 18 to 25 are about 4% of the population, and they commit upwards of 50% of crime.
And you saying that doesn't mean that you have hate.
Yeah, and people love to say like, oh, you hate blacks. No, it's a fact.
It's not
and give you something to think about. Like, how can this small group commit that much, the total crime in the whole nation? That shows that Jesse's right. This is a spiritual problem.
It's like that video. There's this girl, I don't know if she's Jamaican or what, she has an accent. She came to a Black Lives Matter protest and she called them all out and said, you know, like, why do black lives only matter when it's white on black? When, you know, Chicago, and I know people hate to hear Chicago being brought up, but it's brought up because no one cares, you know? And if Black Lives Mattered, you'd care about any which way black lives were lost.
Yeah,
you know, in Chicago, like 20 people the same day George Floyd died, 20 people died in Chicago that same day, and 40 people were injured.
There was a retired police chief just the other day, I think maybe yesterday, shot in Las Vegas in the back of the head, murdered. A black former policeman murdered by these rioters. Where's his justice? Where's his Black Lives Matter? They don't care. And that's the thing, like, when you separate your emotions and step away out of your skin identity, you don't identify with skin color, you start to see how crazy it is, and you can see the same pattern that the media is always stirring you up. Like a Pied Piper. They just play on your feelings and get you to do what they want. Like, come on, let's get mad about only this thing. Let's get mad about these statistics,
They're chicken
not
hawks.
this.
They're chicken hawks sitting on the top, getting funded by all these people's emotions, getting riled up, and then they send all the people that are in these communities to go do their dirty work. And at the end of the day, they just care about votes on the left, Democratic votes. That's all they care about, and they're using the racial propaganda to make people work for them, and it's insane. Like George Soros, Al Sharpton, Maxine Waters, Hillary Clinton, all these people are insane. Evil.
Bernie says it's amazing how the blacks want us to be equal but separate themselves by saying black-owned business, best black athlete, best black actor. Yeah, it's
No, exactly,
and they should have a right to be separate. Like that's what Jesse said before. When the government basically they forced integration. They forced Jim Crow laws on
and they're
people.
trying to force it right now on
Yeah.
social media. They're trying to force integration as opposed to allow us to just be free to view, ask questions, understand the way we understand. Because not everybody, and it has nothing to do with skin color. It just happens to it has to do with the way you see things and what truth
in
is.
culture. Like Blue Jays fly with Blue Jays, just like Muhammad Ali says. He's not wrong. You know, why do you think you have little Chinatowns and you have little Ethiopias and these little places and little Italies and cities? Because people tend to stick to their own kind, and that is completely okay. And it's wrong for anyone to try and force them to mix. And that's what you can kind of see on the media. That all through Hollywood, over the last couple of years, they've been nothing but promoting race mixing, but not so it's organic. They want it because it's based on not liking yourself. You know, so the blacks hate themselves, so they'll date a white person. Whites will hate themselves, they'll date a black person. They'll date anybody but who looks like their parents. And it's not to say that it can't be organic and it can't happen naturally, but there are forces at work. It's part of communist propaganda. If you study how communism works, they play off minorities and they use a minority to destroy the majority. And that is how you have to look at it, just logically, not about like Queen Butterfly's right. It's tragic that Floyd died, but there's other things to that death. Was he on intoxicants? The first autopsy says he was on methamphetamine and fentanyl. He was a porn star. He was a criminal in terms of that he was still living that crime life. You know, armed robbery with assault, holding a gun to a woman to try and get money or drugs from her house. And that does not all that. That's not said to say that he deserves to die. It's said to say that, like Jesse says, if you live wrong, you will get wrong coming back to you. You catch hell. And we have to try and figure out how do we save the kids from ending up like that, to not be in that police situation, to not put themselves there. How do you fix that? You get rid of the anger and the hatred, and then you won't have any more George Floyds. You'll have people just living right and having families and owning businesses, and that's what's more important than just saying, let's focus on the downstream, this death. How about we focus on the root and save the rest of the kids?
And from what I see, most people, like I don't see anybody arguing the injustice of the police with George Floyd. Everybody, white, black, seems to be admitting that it was wrong. And so, even with that, right, it's like there's people out there that are just so committed to misunderstanding. Like, I don't understand what people want from this. Like, what do you want? Besides burning businesses, you know, of course you want justice, right? But what does that mean? Does that mean that you want all these officers to be arrested? You'll burn cities until officers are arrested? Because if you think about it, those officers are you and I. And any laws that are changed can be used against you. So if you think that starting fires and burning down your community to call someone guilty is the right thing, that's really the wrong thing, because due justice is what needs to be done. It
Right.
needs to be court, it needs to be evidence, everything needs to come together in a fair trial way, just as if you would want to happen for you. And that's the thing people realize. They think that they're on their own little world, and that when they see on the outside, it's like you're watching TV or something. But whatever happens for everybody. So you got to be careful, like, to protect our freedoms in this stuff.
Right. We need to care. Like one of the foundational principles of our country and what makes this the West in America so great is private property and sovereignty and our rights as citizens, God-given rights, and we're letting these people convince themselves and try to force us to believe that it's okay to act like animals, and that's how you deal with justice. A good father, I think everyone here in the chat would agree that a good father would never condone your behavior. I don't care if I had a son and the cops beat his ass and maybe he did wrong, but they were excessive. I would never condone him going out with his friends and then looting and rioting to protest that. That's not how you fight that battle. You do it honorably. A man should be honorable in how he does his dealings, and they're not doing that. They want us to believe that anarchy and savagery is the same as being honorable and just.
Yeah, it's true. So if you want to call in and talk about it, share what's on your mind, even if you disagree, if you agree, whatever it is, you want to talk about it, call 818-308-5559.
Queen Butterfly's right. The looters are criminals. We should not feel bad for the looters. They should open fire on the looters.
And you know, everybody's on board with saying that it was wrong. From what we can see in that video, it looked wrong, and we don't know that, you know, because there was two autopsies that happened. One from somebody who's a liar, has been known as a
known liar,
and then also the first one, which I don't remember, was just some regular old folks, but. You know, one of them said what?
That he was on, that there was methamphetamine and fentanyl in his system, that he had coronary heart disease. So there's a couple of things. And the reason, and you have to check your emotions on this, because it's easy that if you live in your emotions, you're going to hear this and say, but he didn't deserve to die. Just hold off on that. So you have to think about a certain thing. Don't think about how the media has framed it. One, was his airway blocked? The fact that he is speaking in the video means that his airway was not obstructed. He still had airway. The other argument is that they cut off blood flow to the carotid, which was on both sides of your neck. So there's blood flow on both sides. However, closing off one side does not close off the other side. So that's why that move is in police textbooks. It is a move that you can use to restrain somebody. So it looks like it can be excessive in that video, and that's what they want you to believe. But wait and see, like Jesse says, wait and see. And this autopsy shows that there's some other things. He was living a life full of drugs and crime. He was a user. So it's not hard to imagine that he was on a substance. He was not in the best of health. He was worked up and angry, which is what Jesse says. You know, the black community suffers from a lot of anger. So when it comes to police contact, they get angry too fast, and we've seen that. Ahmaud Arbery, angry, and that works you up. And that combined with the restraint, him just, you know, getting hyperventilating, it's possible he had a heart attack. Possible, but let's not believe that it was excessive until we know every single fact, because we're so used to seeing it through the lens of the media, and we don't even catch ourselves seeing it that way.
And my point in bringing up those two possibilities of autopsies is that all people that I've seen, I've never seen once anybody defending the officer, not one person. But at the end of the day, when these instances happen, why is it that we can acknowledge the wrong on the side of the police, but we can't ever take accountability for the criminality, you know, of what's happening with the victim? And acknowledging that doesn't mean that you think that they deserve to die. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's that the only way to grow is to be able to look and see yourself first, right? And I notice with all these instances with the police, I see, you know, people that are, you know, good people, right? They have jobs, they work, they have families, whatever, and they say, my son could be next, or I could be next. When basically they're saying my son or me are criminals. Like, the only way you could be next is if you go out and commit crimes, and you break the law, and then you have to, you know, to deal with the police. And then it's possible you could be next. I could be next too if I fought the police and resisted, and I wasn't raised that way. But so I don't understand what that means when people say, I could be next. It's like, are you saying you're a criminal and then you're going to go, you know, use a fake 20 at the store? Or that you're going to
go trespass for months on someone's property and then rush them when they have a gun?
Right.
Like, don't identify just because they're your skin color. Stop saying that you are all people. I am not all white people. I am not all black people. I am not anybody. I am me.
And people would be more accountable. People would be more understanding and listen more. And I think there'd be more harmony in the world if people could be more accountable to all sides, as opposed to just trying to grab one narrative and run with it and get everyone to believe it, you know, and force everyone to believe it. You know, when it's like a kid. When a kid is busted or wrong, he's going to lie and make up all these excuses. Or like, you know, even women, like my mom or my sister or you know, women that I've dealt with, you know, you say one negative thing, a criticism about them, and then they need to hear all these positive reinforcement things to make up for it, so they don't feel like you hate them. Because it's not that you hate anybody. It's that you want to look at both sides of the coin so you can grow from it. And in all these instances, there's crime being happened. And why isn't there any accountability on that? Why is it just acting as though these police are just coming out of nowhere and killing innocent people? That's not at all what's happening.
Right. And like Queen Butterfly brought up a good point about what seems and what the media wants you to perceive as the officer smirking. I smirk when people are rude and don't know what I'm saying because they're committed to misunderstanding. So you have to not believe that he's smirking because he's enjoying having his knee on some guy's neck.
That's that bias.
That's that colored vision in your head saying that you know he's smirking because he's an evil person. All we can say is that he's a cop. He's used to getting crap from people and people jumping the gun. And when you start to pull back from the whole race thing, you realize that blacks do, on the whole, act up and are way more aggressive with police contact and don't show any respect for authority. They don't like authority.
And if that's not you and you're black, then don't take offense to it.
Right.
Because
you're not like that. I doubt that you would do that, and I doubt you've ever been mishandled like that because you are a lady. You're not going to be wild and aggressive. So don't put yourself in his shoes that you are that person.
Like if I saw all this stuff happening to white people, I wouldn't identify with them at all. I wouldn't be like, oh, it's a white guy. I would just be like, damn, that's a criminal. That's some guy that broke the law. Or, you know, it's like you can tell a certain class of people, and even though we're all people, like certain mentalities, drug addicts, type of people that do that. I'm not going to identify with them.
Yeah, like the homeless guy, Kelly Thomas, the original I Can't Breathe. A white guy in Fullerton, homeless man, beaten to death by cops. He died about 5 days after the beating, and he was stopped because he fit the description of somebody who was breaking into cars. He was not breaking into cars. But the cops were already aggressive, and so in that case, I didn't identify with him being white. But I saw what was wrong, that there was police excessiveness, there was anger and ego. The cops were being mean to him from the get-go and just playing games with like, put your hands on your knees, now put your legs out, and kind of giving him confusing issues. And he let that cop's anger get him angry, and he said, well, what the hell, man? Which one is it? I don't know what you're talking about. So they escalated. That spirit of anger got them both to clash. And then the homeless man got up, the cop tried to get rough with him, he ran out of defense, and 5-6 cops proceeded to beat him until he was a pulp, and he died. He looked a mess, and there was no riots. The media did not give the same attention. You didn't see Al Sharpton or anybody coming out saying, this is a great example of police brutality. They didn't care because it doesn't fit their agenda. They want black people to hate white people, hate America, because guess who wants to take over this country? Communist, anti-Christ people. And they're going to use blacks to destroy it. They've made it clear. If you study this, I'm telling you, study it. This is the plan. So that hate is real, but find out who gave it to you. It goes all the way back to the school system, to the Hollywood, to the media. They've been doing this for decades, brainwashing whites to hate themselves, brainwashing blacks to hate whites, creating a clash of races. And we're seeing that play out right now. Don't get pulled into it.
Yeah. But anyways, call in, guys, because we want to talk about it.
Virus was a distraction. They expected more looting and rioting. It didn't work, so they killed a man to incite phase 2.
I agree. What's up with the COVID thing? It seems so convenient that, they get everybody in masks. Because originally, before all this COVID stuff, we all could know and identify Antifa when we saw it because they'd be wearing their masks, covering their faces, and most people that were not for Antifa, and they could see through it and see that even though they're saying anti-fascism and stuff, and what they're doing is they're stopping people from having free speech. They're manipulating people's words. They're not doing anything with what they supposedly are. And before this COVID stuff, you could identify Antifa right away. But now, everybody's in masks. And so it seems like it's just a planned, set-up situation. I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, but it's just like if you sit back and you look at the whole timeline of what's been going on, it's just too perfect for them. And, obviously they want martial law. They want a complete shutdown of the country, and they want to bring chaos so that they can bring in their communist, socialistic agendas.
Study the New World Order, and what is their Latin motto? Or out of chaos, order.
Yeah, the Big Bang Theory, right? It's
right.
just an explosion, and then out of chaos you can create order.
That's the whole thing. But like, look at the Arab Spring, all those revolutions in the Middle East. You know, the Chinese Communist Revolution, it was the same formula. Russia, 1917, the original Communist Revolution. You incite instability. You play minorities against majorities. You stress those tensions. You force intermixing. You force tension. It blows up, and out of that chaos, the disorder of everything, they come in and take power, and they seize it. And then it's over. And you don't want communists to rule this country. They're already here. And they're already in our media. Look at Hollywood. It's full of immorality. It's full of pushing terrible messages on children. Disney's making, it okay to tell children and teach them about transgender. They want kids as young as 4 to learn about sex and pleasure, how to pleasure themselves and what it is, teaching about anal sex. Like, it's out of control. This is hell on earth they're going to bring here if we keep thinking in color.
At the end of the day, it's an attack on so many different sides. And to the root of it, it's going to be Satan versus God, right? Good versus evil, love versus anger and hatred. And when you stem from that umbrella, and the order is God, God and Christ, Christ and man, woman and children, right? And that's not a man-made thing. That's just the natural order, because men are logical. Men are not emotional. There's providers and solution-oriented, and they can, oversee the family and know what's best, right? And women are more emotional. It's just a fact. And of course there are women out there who are more logical than others, and there's men out there who are more emotional than others. And that's what's the problem is that they're playing off of that, and they're using tactics like trying to make people feel like victims and feel oppressed. They're telling women that they're oppressed and victims. They're telling people of color that they're oppressed and victims. And what they want is to make, at the end of the day, you hate one another. They want to make women hate men. They want to make other ethnicities hate other ethnicities. And the only way you can avoid this stuff is to not allow that spirit to get inside you where you become angry and hateful and emotional. But just sit back objectively, observe, and just discern right and wrong without hating it and being attached to it. And
Trevor has the loudest jacket I've seen in at least a few weeks.
You like that? I was going to ask about the comments over there, see what they're talking about. Because no one's calling in.
Queen Butterfly says she wants to get on the shuttle and go to outer space. I said, take us with you. But unfortunately, I believe it's a flat Earth, and we cannot leave this place.
Is it a black-owned planet?
Yeah. And will I be allowed to speak on this new planet?
Yeah, I was saying this before, like if they populate Mars and stuff, you can't call it a black hole anymore because that's spacist. So we don't want any spacism when we're in space. So we're just going to call it a hole. It'll no longer be a black hole. And all Martian lives matter.
Rick Roll, new guy. I haven't seen him in the chat before, but welcome, Rick Roll. He has some facts here. You can have 10 phones. They're still going to trace you. Why do you think they got everyone wearing masks and standing 6 feet away? It's so the cameras can ID you. Research ID 2020 and COVID Pass. Exactly. We were looking at some videos. They've always been trying to ID people. These 5G towers. Everything's always about tracking. Everything's about tracking. Facebook was a CIA program. LifeLog, and then they dumped the program LifeLog, and all of a sudden Facebook was created like the next day. And what did Facebook accomplish? It got everyone to volunteer all their information, all their locations, everything that the government could ever dream of. So when tyranny comes to power, guess what? They've got files on everybody. And then you got companies like 23andMe. Now they have your DNA. So we're just giving them everything. It's like basically giving the government all access to your property. Just walking into your house, taking your fingerprints, taking your blood. It's the same thing. We have to think about the bigger picture here and not get sucked into the race thing. Is there hatred among races? Absolutely. But what is the root here, and who's driving that hate? I don't recommend anyone goes out to the mob. Like, white people should defend themselves and get guns, but don't go into a mob because you can't reason with them.
Stupid.
They may hate you, but you're not going to reason with that black mob for your life. So
or white mob, because a lot of these people are, I don't know if they're white or what, but
Jewish.
They're not black.
Yeah, there's a lot of
they're
Antifa
Antifa people, and they're claiming, we know what I'm doing is I'm staying away from these crowds, staying away from it all, but I'm preparing my own home, my own self to be prepared for if I get attacked. Riots come to the streets, the residential areas, and I want to be prepared. But I'm not out there looking for trouble, and I'm not trying to convince people who are committed to misunderstanding me. It doesn't matter what I say. When you're angry, you're out on the street, and you're already burning, vandalizing stuff, my words don't mean anything. So
Queen Butterfly nailed it. I guess she
That's what she
said
said.
something.
What'd she say?
The left will create aliens and tell everyone there's an invasion and stay in your homes. Absolutely, it's all fake. If you really, I mean, think about if. I mean, you have to just kind of wake up first before you can see it. But
Whoa.
people who are overly intellectual, which is all these scientists, they talk forever. They give you a paragraph explanation, so that by the end of it, it sounds like they said something and it sounds intelligent, but they said nothing at all. There is no force of gravity. It's called density, just like density in the ocean. They cannot pass the atmosphere. It's even in the science textbooks. They've taught me in class. I try to go to medical school, and they teach you about this thing called the Van Allen radiation belts. And in the text, it says that it is impossible to pass through it. It is deadly radiation. So how can we pass through that when they just told us it's impossible to pass through? So you start finding all these contradictions, and then they dance around it to keep you. Oh wow, that sounds intelligent. He's so smart. Neil deGrasse Tyson. All lies.
Yeah, I mean, I can't conclude either way on that kind of stuff because I just don't know. But I definitely know that the most popular thing being said is going to be the lie. So it makes me question everything for sure and be skeptical. And I'm a fan of seeing and learning for myself. And those kind of things, I mean, I get it. I get that if you look out, all you see is flatness. So I understand from that point, but I also understand that I don't know.
Another thing, they always say, oh, things disappear over the horizon and sink. Well, with the advent of these new cameras that can have these amazing zoom capabilities, they've shown that what looks to your naked eye as that ship kind of going down a supposed curve, get a better camera and zoom in. That ship is still there.
Speaking of
It's
naked
just
eyes,
all the way out there.
my naked eye has a fans only page. So if you want to check it out,
It's called Trevor's Naked Eye.
yeah, Trev's naked eye.
Trev's Naked Brown Eye.
Yes, I have blue eyes and one brown eye.
Skills Carmine, I believe it too. He says hell is literally below us. It's a physical place. I think it's called Sheol. If you look at the old flat Earth diagrams, there's the dome, there's Earth, and there's the underworld, literally underneath us, which is like where, they said that some of these evil people came from, these cave dwellers. That's what we're dealing
Is
with.
that what David Icke talks about? The
lizard people.
The shapeshifters?
Yep.
I have a little song actually I started making about shapeshifters, but I had it in the spirit not of like actual shapeshifters, but people that pretend they're your friend while you agree with them and while you're the peacemaker and you're like, hey, can't we all just get along? Right? And then they shapeshift and turn into someone else when you start speaking up and being yourself and standing for something. And it goes a little like this. Creeping, all the famous people that they're eating really ain't what they're keeping. Forever on there is a reason. The creeping, you think it's true that they believe in. It's only money that they're seeking. The creeping, shapeshifters ain't gonna bring me down. Shapeshifters ain't gonna bring me down. Shapeshifters ain't gonna bring me down. Shapeshifters ain't gonna bring me down.
I think it was Rick Barbeda said, those socks are even louder than your jacket.
Well, you can see my socks. I thought I thought I was hiding them. I didn't know the camera was positioned to see them. This his fail.
Rick Barbeda. Oh, yeah.
I wrote him on the list of things. Hide the socks.
We have to bring the camera in closer. I think it looks good though. The socks it's all symmetrical
Can you
and
see him?
pops.
You can't see him.
Yeah. They're good looking socks.
You know what?
Don't be ashamed.
I'm not ashamed. I just didn't know that they were seen. But I'm willing to be vulnerable and show all my true colors, if you know what I'm saying.
The Black Hebrew Israelites are celebrating Christmas and Thanksgiving this week. What the? Man, where's Lin Chen? We need a Merry Christmas.
Well, I thought you were going to say we need a super chat. Lin Chin's the king of super chats.
Lin Chen is the man. He's our Canadian, half Jamaican, half Chinese brother. What's up, Grace? Grace is in the chat.
What's up, Gracie?
Grace has entered the chat. Oh, good question. Queen Butterfly. Do you all believe in that dinosaurs were real? What do you think?
Well, one thing that makes me question dinosaurism is how do they know what sounds dinosaurs make? They all of a sudden you see these movies and stuff and they got all the dinosaur sounds down. How do they know that? Well, we blew air through the bone structures and we found that these were the noises that they made, and pterodactyls go. Rah!
Yeah, there were no dinosaurs. The entire field of dinosaur study is built on fraudulent data. They're just bones of other animals, ostriches, whatever, big birds, big lizards, and then they just got fantastical with it. Most of those bones, like 99% of them, are all composite. They're not actual bone. They've made them somewhere in a factory, and they put them up in a museum, and then Hollywood comes in with all these movies to keep that fantasy alive in your head, because guess what? All this is designed to reinforce the Big Bang Theory, this godless world where we are not the center of the earth, where we are not God's creation. We're just some accident floating in space. And when they say, oh yeah, everything is just entropy. So there's this thing called entropy, one of the laws of thermodynamics. It says that when things have a tendency to break apart, like if there's
like relationships.
Yeah, if I throw this glass down, it breaks on the floor. Will it ever come back together? No, it'll continue to disintegrate. So how can the Big Bang, how can we have this law of entropy? How could, out of that chaos and this tendency to just continue to break down, how can we get something like the eye, like Owen Benjamin's talked about?
Well, what about
Some
whatever
complex structures.
Murphy's law? Whatever can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah.
Well, if that's true, then wouldn't it? Then yeah, it can go. Chaos can go wrong in that it will just continue to be chaotic. It is possible, right? So why didn't it go wrong? It didn't. Perfect order came, and it only happened once, guys. Only once.
Yeah, and then fossil fuels is a lie. That oil is a natural occurring substance in the earth. They've created scarcity. It doesn't come from bones. If you throw a pile of human bones in the earth and wait a couple thousand years, it's not going to turn to petroleum. It's a lie. It's all a lie.
Fish, when they keep swimming out of water, they're not going to grow legs.
Right. They've never, in fact, like the theory of evolution, it's called speciation. One species literally turning into another species. Not once, never, ever have they observed even a bacterial cell that mutated and turned into a completely different thing. You can adapt, get tanner, get different hair, grow more hair in a cold environment, but I will just not turn into a black person. A bird's not going to turn into a lizard. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, yeah, I think that it makes more sense that there's adaptation, that you will continue to be the species you are, but you will adapt to your environment and atmosphere. It's just like when you go, I learned this, and I can't say it's true because I heard about it, but it makes sense, is that when you swim, your fingertips and your toes become pruned, right? But no other part of your body does. And it said somewhere, I forget where I read it, that's because it's your body adapting to the water so that you can become more agile on the water and you can grip things. Like, so if you're in the water for a long time, you can now have little grippers on your hands and your feet so that you can, be more ocean-like, or lake-like, or bathtub-like.
Queen Butterfly says, I think some dinosaurs were made up by humans. Humans weren't there and there were no cameras, so... And she also says she believes in giants. I certainly believe in giants. I think the Bible has more truth about it. These stories of giant men and those kind of monsters, maybe, but not what mainstream science has said. The Bible has more truth in it, but I also don't take it literally because it's been touched by man. But I think those stories hold more weight. There's fallen angels, these elite bloodlines, the Illuminati. They all go back to the original fallen angels who laid with the daughters of men and made these bloodlines, and they got the knowledge of how to rule over man to create Satan's kingdom on earth. Because that's the whole point. Satan needs us to believe that he is God. And he does that by us destroying God, destroying what is right in the world. Destroy the light, and then there's only darkness. And you can see that we're marching towards that. Just straight darkness.
Playing the dark tunes.
From riots to flat earth to dinosaurs. That's right. We cover it all here on Bros and Cons.
Unlike the girls on Instagram, they don't cover anything.
That's right. Don't forget Trevor's OnlyFans. Taking me back to my physiology days. That's right, Gracie. That's where Gracie's she a nurse, and I was trying to get into the medical field. Like I said, I worked in the hospital for years. I took all the courses you need to get into medical school because that was the original goal. And all the data's there. All the holes in the arguments are in those classes. And the teachers have no good answer for it. They just repeat it, and then they expect you to repeat it. And it just goes on and on like that. let's see. The sizing with giant men makes sense. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. That's Blacktoria.
Blacktorius.
Mark Hidalgo's in the chat. Come with me.
Marcorius.
Atlantis game. NPC 2000 said he posted riot footage from San Antonio. Yeah, it's getting bad out. It's just bad everywhere.
It's not getting bad. It's already bad. People are dying.
Yeah. Blacktoria, you're right about giants, but you're wrong about those dinosaurs. They are not real. It's all fake. It is all fake. So, another thing, what do you think about actually here's the breaking news that happened the other night, and I just told Trevor about it today. The LAPD arrested a Chinese national, Chinese citizen here in America, who was dressed like a National Guardsman. He was impersonating a guardsman and on his way with fully loaded weapons to, I believe, City Hall with plans to start shooting.
So what do you think that means?
Yeah, what do you think that means? What do you guys think that means? When we're talking about that we're at war with China and communism and all these people, what do you think that means? And that's not being blasted on CNN, MSNBC.
And you know what else isn't being blasted? Not to troll off into something else, but you just reminded me. What else isn't being blasted on CNN? It wasn't either today or yesterday. Hillary Clinton had a court.
For the Obamagate, the Spygate hearings,
Yeah,
she was doing court today.
She was doing court today, and no one's talking about it. And anytime these deep state kind of situations come, there's always a distraction. So call in and let's talk about it. 818-308-5559.
Oh, am I missing phone calls?
This guy's really on point. He's letting my socks show. Missing calls. Did someone call?
Yeah, I think that the volume was down.
Hopefully it's not a hater troll with anger. Drink with me and you'll be in a world of pure intoxication.
Hey, what's up, Danny? Sorry, Mr. Call Pro.
Oh, you already know who it is.
We got Gaucho Bear on the line.
Gaucho?
Gaucho. It's like a Argentinian horse-faced dancer.
What is it? Gaucho Bear.
No, Gaucho. Oh.
Nice.
What does it
U with
mean?
an O.
But what does that mean, Gaucho?
What does it mean?
Pronunciation. Gaucho is basically just cowboy in Argentina. All that basically means is just cattle rustlers. Argentina's major export forever has always been meat. So I've always been very excited about asados and just meat in general. We really like our meat. That was, during World War II, that was like our thing that made us one of the economic powers of the world. We had a 1-to-1 dollar ratio with America back then. Not so much now. Now it's bad. I think it's 110 pesos to $1. The economy is.
So what's on your mind, bro? After everything that's been going on, what is on your mind?
Oh, yeah, the original reason I called in before the callback, which was a pleasant surprise, was this description of the events that happened that caused everything that's going on now. I know you guys are in LA with me, the lockdown and everything else. Yeah. Curfew stuff. The description of Floyd and the police officer that I found the most satisfying is a man killed another man.
True.
Right. And that's really what happened. There's no lie in that.
The root of it.
Yeah, you can't, there's no arguing of that. If you want to argue the pigmentation of the skin, what the person was wearing, the deep-rooted racism, systematic oppression of a certain people, all that stuff is just added on to the very simple, a man killed another man.
Yeah, and people that bring up systematic racism and stuff, a lot of those people that claim that are also anti-conspiracy theory. So at the end of it, if you really look at it, saying that systematic racism is a thing is a conspiracy theory in itself, because I haven't been able to, just because it's a white cop and a black guy, it doesn't automatically make it racist. You don't know the intention behind it. And
Right. That's just your interpretation of that.
Yeah,
if someone feels like it's something more than, well, that's what you think.
Systematic.
And if you can analyze where you got those thoughts from, then you can realize that it's not necessarily true, because you can compare it to other cases.
And systematic, for something to be systematic, it would have to be like laws specifically for, you know, a person of a different ethnicity. And all Americans have the equal start of everything. We have the same laws to abide by. And
well, that's what I go by. But then they always mention like unspoken secret things going on.
Right.
But then you would see it more. You wouldn't see it once a year or once every other year. You'd see it constantly, especially with the cell phone cameras. This kind of thing would be reported more often than not. And when they list the 16 times that black men were killed by white officers, like 90% of those, it wasn't an innocent person doing nothing. It's like the Mike Brown hands up, don't shoot.
Right.
When you look into the whole thing of it, he wasn't just someone selling single cigarettes outside a liquor store. It was someone who punched an officer through a window, reached for his gun, and there's all this other stuff that happened behind it, but they still use that narrative because no one questions it. They already established it, and they made it something that you can't even ask, because then that makes you racist. And then people are afraid of being racist, so then they don't look into it more.
No, I hear you, man. And they piggyback them all together. And then, you know, like, I don't even know when Black Lives Matter first began, what the spirit was behind it.
It was the Mike Brown shooting in Ferguson.
That's why I mentioned Mike Brown, because that was the staple that really...
That's where they founded it.
Made it a movement.
But it was like, it seems like it's been like now Antifa is kind of hijacking it, and they're, you know, ruining cities and buildings and stuff like that, all in the name of Black Lives Matter. And so it's like, it's interesting when these movements happen, how easily they could be hijacked. Because I honestly don't even know what the spirit was behind. Because it could have originally, what if it originally was started to talk about all black lives, including the ones that are killed by black people?
And actually it wasn't. It was started by Jesse always jokes about, by a black lesbian. And it's basically like a black version of Antifa. They are not interested in looking at crime in an objective way. They only want to look at the high-profile cases that will make it seem like the blacks are being hunted and attacked. Which again, if you just look at all the facts, whites get attacked 10-1. Violent crimes are 10-1 rate black on white. Blacks commit 50% of all homicides, over 90% of all black homicides. They commit nearly 100% of all mob attacks. There is a huge problem of anger and violence in the community. Black Lives Matter is not being hijacked. They're just part of that same movement to incite more anger and emotion.
Because it shouldn't be...
I believe that. I believe that because if Black Lives Matter really cared about black lives, they would have brought up abortion, the amount of blacks that are never even born, because it's mostly in areas that have a lot of black people in it, and black on black crime. You look at how many killings that happen in like South Chicago and Atlanta and all.
I think I saw a meme.
If they would have brought that up, then I would be like, oh, okay, yeah, you guys obviously care about all the black lives, but no. You care about the black lives that are specifically, and rarely, I would say, white on black.
Yeah,
also
I think
people in power.
I saw a meme that said Black Lives Matter except when you're pregnant. And I don't know whether it's funny or sad, you know, it's just crazy.
Well, it's impactful. That's a lot of the memes that really stick in people's mind are ones that make the most sense. And that's why a man killed another man sticks out in my mind so profoundly. And the white liberal friends that I have on Facebook posting all these things about justifying the protest, all I say very simply is a man killed another man. And their reaction to it really showed something to me. Because what do you mean by that? No, a man killed another man. I don't mean anything else. I can't better describe this incident than that. And then they spiral.
Yeah.
And that shows me that, oh, you guys have additional feelings about this thing that if you consider it just a man killing another man, all the things that happen after it is an overreaction. Riots, additional murders, destruction of property, rape, everything that's happening after the fact that a man killed another man, if you look at it that way, then everything else after just seems completely ridiculous. And it is. That one case of a house being set on fire, the fire department being blocked from getting to the house, and a young person dying in flames because they couldn't get to the building is heartbreaking. And then